Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We consider certain values or virtues as being universal. That is, most likely, you can find them almost in each and every culture on this planet. And that's, for instance, respect for the elder. It's more or less a value, a trend, a virtue. Courage is a virtue. A person with courage and displaying courage is admired because you're selfless or sacrifice for others. So that turns into not being a egotistic asshole. But when you profess that you have certain values as an individual, as an entity, organization, club, country, you profess it. That means you accept to play by those rules, by upholding the virtues. So if you say courage, you didn't display courage. Now when I don't display courage, I should say the same thing. Well, I was kind of like a weasel. I was weak and coward. You can't just point that you don't have that value, you lack that, you did this, you're a bad person. And if you do the same thing as you claim everybody else is doing, and if you do the same thing, you don't point out that to you as well. That tells me that you don't have the biggest value, which I think is justice. Or maybe one of the biggest ones anyway. Justice is one of the few that we have: courage, justice, temperance, moderation. So wisdom. So what we have here? We have Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, and good or bad, he warns whomever meddles into the Russia's internal affairs or the elections. Because yes, he's a dictator, but he holds elections, rigged elections, not as ours, true and free and all that. He said, whomever does that, we consider that an attack, an act of aggression. He calls it, let me show you the article here. So from Russia Today, Reuters, Russia's Putin shown alongside Orthodox icon image, doesn't really matter, warns West against meddling. And we have here President Putin, whose picture was shown between two warned the West ahead of elections in March 2024 that any foreign meddling in Russia would be considered an act of aggression. So that means you can say, well, yeah, but when you did it, when you do it, you don't consider it that way. Well, the same thing is true for you as well. And besides, he's a bad dude, right? So you don't hold him to the same standards as you hold yourself, being this perfect entity on this planet. I'm talking about the guys in charge of us, the US government and its handlers. So let's see what's going on here. They are trying to portray, and maybe this is the image that Putin wants to portray to his Russians, having the images, the icons around him. I don't know how much he believes in a superior entity under the cloak of Christianity, because that's just different interpretation of whatever it's supernatural, if there is such a thing. Then I don't know, and I can't question it, as I don't question your, or yours and yours and yours. You are the only one who really know how much you believe and how much you understand, or you don't tangle with these things. Don't impose on others. Now they obviously here they pretend or want to portray Putin as a weasel, trying to give an image to the Russian people, which could be possible. You can interpret it that way. Being two icons around you, then images, that means you want to portray yourself as being one of the semi-saints guys. But that's not, I haven't heard any other country, to be honest with you, besides America, saying God bless America, which is nothing wrong with that. But I haven't heard Romania, God bless Romania. or God bless Germany, or God bless France. I haven't heard being so commonly said. And by the government of the United States of America, that in the United States of America's foreign relations and actions, they don't seem to behave like this kind of pious, followers of the teachings of I don't know exactly whom, because they call themselves Judeo-Christian. Well, if they would bother to read the Old Testament and the New Testament, they realize that from our perspective, the Christian perspective, the New Testament is the one that changed, completed the Old Testament. Remember, over there you had an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth mentality. These guys say, no, forgive your enemy. Forgive and forget. Love your enemy. Turn the other cheek. So it's two opposite mentality. You can't have both. I mean, if you have both, remember here we talk about the same God with two smack. The second you were smacked, smack back. And the other one is when you get smacked, you turn the other cheek. How can you have this? Well, God works through mysterious ways. And if you can't understand this simplistic situation, you don't understand because it's too deep for you. I don't buy that. I wrote 2 books on those where I expressed my assessment of scientific assessment of that book. So Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 has led to the most serious confrontation between Moscow and the West since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, prompting Putin to pivot towards China. That's so idiotic. They tell us that Putin pivoted towards China only now, when they were in a process of making love for about 10 years already. But this is the way these guys give the spin. Only now Putin turned towards China. Yeah, he wanted to be part of the European club or the American club, but these guys treated Russia as a vassal state, as they treat everybody else in Europe. I'm talking about Al Capone. And Russia said, well, we're not friends. We're not Great Britain. We're better than them. Population and power and military, why would we care? We have more resources. If these guys don't get resources from outside, they die. That's the truth. If tomorrow Germany don't get any resources from outside, Germany gets to the level of, Albania, you can't even feed yourselves, let alone Great Britain. Great Britain, with its territory of Great Britain, without doing commerce with others, they will be starving. You got that? You don't have resources. Shit. So you need everybody else. So you're not that important. If someone does a little boycott on you, you die like flies. The Russians, they don't die. That's the whole thing. You depend on, it's like the banks and us. Somehow we depend on the banks. If we die, the banks die. If the banks die, we don't die. So who's more important? Obviously, who depends on whom? That's a dependency situation here. Anyway, since the invasion, Putin has changed the narrative of the war, casting it as an existential battle between sacred Russian civilization and an arrogant West, which he says is in cultural, political, and economic decline. Well, I don't know if Putin changed the narrative of the war and he cast it as an existential battle, but for them it is an existential battle. Because if they lose, if they let Ukraine, these guys are going to be in their bed. I mean, look at where Ukraine is, where NATO is, and where Russia is, and where the head office is, which is Al Capone. Al Capone is far away. So he does everything over there, and he's supposed to, you're not going to hit me. It's like that analogy that I make with that circus trainer. The guy who has the tigers and the lions. Remember, when he shows up in that cage in front of the people watching onlookers, he has 2 things in his hand, usually. Right? He had a long pole, right, to poke, and a long whip. That's United States of America, right? And the Russia or whomever, they're always far away, and they use Europe, the long pole, to poke, and they hit from far away. So when the tiger hits with a claw that could rip the trainer in pieces with one blow, it gets focused on the pole and on the whip, so on Europe. So the tiger or the lion hits Europe, the pole and the whip, but the brain, the instigator, the guy, the head office is far away, is outside. And sometimes the tiger realizes that, and then when justice is served. Why? Because I think the animals are just hurt by these guys for the pleasure of idiot masses. Yes, that's what I think. So again, and the same, the sacred Russian civilization. Russia has a civilization and it wants to keep it that way, like Bulgaria doesn't, like Poland wants, and like Hungary. I started with Bulgaria because but not Bulgaria. So there are countries who still want to maintain their national identity. They don't want to accept people from outside. And that is a sin nowadays. Russia wants to do the same thing, and who would stop them? Well, obviously these guys who is the decadent West. What we have here is a decadency. It's a perversion. They say, well, it's a arrogant West. It is arrogant because they thought, I'm going to give you an example. They thought, the West thought that if they gonna place the first set of sanctions on Russia, Russia will collapse. Now that's arrogant because you think you're more important than you actually think you are. And then what happened? They are at the 12th round of sanctions against Russia, and Russia is still there, but Germany, France, Great Britain, these guys going on economic recession. So who's winning? Remember, these guys that I mentioned are the pole and the whip. The guy is not yet in a recession, but those guys are. Russia is not. So again, using others, and then you say here is a culture, political, economic decline. That's true. Again, economic it is. I don't understand why the Europeans and the Americans try to shoot themselves in the foot and try to transfer their industry and their technology outside, and they are not producing shit. And those guys are going to turn off, like China. If China right now is an economic, let's say, fight with, let's say, the United States of America, and they say, okay, for 1 month, we don't send anything to you from our products, you don't send anything to us. Let's say 3 months, because 3 months definitely. I guarantee you we're going to have, and let's say the United States doesn't have China, it's going to die. A big number of Americans will die. Physically, not dying in their heart or, oh, I'm dying, mommy. No, really. The medications, the antibiotics, and many milk, they are created, they're done over there. We don't produce shit. Guns, that's what we produce. Guns, mainly. You can eat guns? No, you can't eat guns. You have to sell them somewhere so they can give you the product. So, and those guys will not have what? What will the Chinese not have? Some what? Some computers? For 3 months, I don't buy a computer every month. So again, in an economic war, if the Chinese close it, we are going to be more affected, definitely more affected than the Chinese will be. How did we allow ourselves to get in this position? How did they, but we know why they allowed that to happen. They transferred money and investment and technology over there. Why would you do that? Why would you shoot yourself in the foot? A globalization, interdependency. That's not good for us. So you have some criminals, actually, some traitors out there who screwed your country. I'm Johnny Come Lately, okay? Screwed your country and your generations, your parents. I'm not about Americans. Your generations, your parents work, transfer it over there, and what do? You have no industry. What do you produce? That's what you produce. So again, since the invasion, speaking to the World Russian People's Council, led by the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, Kirill, Putin's picture was shown on a giant screen besides two copies of an ancient Orthodox icon. Such icons are styled over gilded religious painting considered sacred in Orthodox churches. And it says the Russian Orthodox Church is an ardent institutional supporter of Russia's war in Ukraine, and Putin has exposed its conservatism as part of his vision of the Russia's national security identity. Of course, this is what kept them together. The family. If you don't have the family, what do you have? Garbage like here. Children out of wedlock. In certain communities, 80%. 80%. Look at the crime rate of children coming out of this kind of families and see what's going on over there. Statistics are over there. It's not. I mean, look at the CIA, FBI crime statistics. It's easy. Don't give me about profiling, because you can go to self-reporting. When you go to self-reporting, there's no, Anyway, it says, I want to underscore, he said, we consider any interference from outside, provocations aimed at causing inter-ethnic or inter-religious conflicts as aggressive acts against our country. Putin said, I want to emphasize again that any attempt to sow inter-ethnic and inter-religious discord to split our society is a betrayal, a crime against the whole of Russia. We will not allow anyone to divide Russia. What are they going to do? Nuke everybody? Maybe if he puts it in these terms, nobody will do anything. But if they don't put it, they're going to say, fuck it. All right, so this is his warning. Well, I would say differently. I would just put them together. That's what I would do as a guy. Say, well, this is what's going to be. And it's not a threat. It's just a consequence. It's like, for instance, if you jump off a cliff, you're not going to be able to come back. You're going to go there and you're going to die. I mean, I'm not threatening you. I'm just telling you, if you jump off a cliff, you're going to die. It's a consequence. So I would say the consequence of trying to attempt to sow inter-ethnic and inter-religious discord to split our society, I will use nuclear weapons on that country. Let's say if Putin would say that, I guarantee you nobody will move a fucking finger. Or maybe someone will move and then point the finger to someone else, so hoping that those guys will be nuked. And I guarantee you nobody will move. But as an aggressive act against our country, can you give us what's going to happen? Images, my friends, images. Images work better than, logic and all that. So that's why the mass media and entertainment works so great, because they use images, movies, television. All right, my friends. So Russia warns the West, only the West, because he knows where the friends are. We'll see what the West will do. Again, you saw arrogant, blah, 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 blah. Well, why don't you leave those guys alone? Yeah, they're the victims. Oh my God. They don't understand that each country has its own interest. And when you step on each country's interest, you try to, infringe it, that person or that country will react according to its power. Now, if it's Romania and let's say it's Russia attacking it or doing something, Romania will shut the hell up. As long as not someone else behind saying, no, you go ahead, I will. You just go over there and die like Ukrainians are doing for the guy with the 9 feet or 8 feet long pole and the long whip. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.